Come on, stop playing, man. You know what it is. If that light's on, flight's on. And we return victorious. That's right. Back from LA, back from SoFi. And of course, that means I had a good trip because the Chargers got the dub as well. So didn't have to take any ragging from my wife and her friends or family. I get to ride high all week long and basically shove it in their faces until next week's matchups. And actually bragging rights until the Chargers meet up with the Saints again in however many years. But for the time being, feeling pretty good. And the Chargers should be as well. Now, granted, the Saints weren't the toughest matchup as it were, but that was a game that they had to have, and they did it in very convincing fashion. Now, it wasn't all pretty. There's definitely some things that they still have to work on, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But there was a lot of good, some stuff to take away that I think they can utilize moving forward, and I think that they will. So without further ado, let's get into all of that and into the proceedings this evening. And welcome again, guys, to this newest edition of IG50i. That's right, I got 5 on it. So let's talk about everything that went down. All right, folks, I need y'all to grant me a little grace here. I did a lot of yelling in the stadium on Sunday, so I don't have much of a voice, so I'm paying the price for it right now. But on to more important things. I'm going to keep it a buck with y'all. It was a little hostile in SoFi on Sunday for the first half, at least for most of it, should I say, maybe like a quarter and a half. And that was, in fact, audible booing that was blaring through on the broadcast for folks at home that were curious. People in that stadium were just as restless and frustrated as you were, like undoubtedly. But into that 6'6", 240-pound Captain America of a quarterback. And I think Greg Roman learned a lesson that a lot of us as Chargers fans that have had the Justin Herbert experience for a while now already knew. Sometimes you just got to follow the leader. And this team is going to end up going as far as 10's arm will carry them, regardless as to what you want the squad to be on the offensive side of the ball. You definitely still want to have an effective running game. And if you want to lead with it, great. But there are going to be some games where you have to come out and establish 10 first. He put it all on display, too. I mean, like the full package. Pause. That was kind of crazy. But you saw the arm. He was 20 for 32, but probably should have been closer to like 25 or 32, if not for a few drops. He had at least 4 of what I call FU throws, 2 to Ladd and a couple to both Josh Palmer and Jalen Reagor. You got to see the mobility. He had 49 yards on the ground, was the second leading rusher for the Chargers on a day that was actually capped, or a rushing performance that was more so capped by a 38-yard big boy gallop. Man, was that exciting. You saw him split 2 defenders, and you were reminded that Justin Herbert is a hell of an athlete. The dude can really move. He just doesn't do it a ton. And he was visibly more demonstrative on Sunday. You saw him trash talking the Saints, really getting to it with his guys when he made a big play, or they did. And that is really something you can tell he's become far more comfortable with when we're talking about being himself under Jim Harbaugh. And it's starting to translate onto the field. That second touchdown to Ladd was a slap in the face also to folks that lean on the whole critique of calling him like static or robotic. 10 went full Harlem Globetrotters on that play, and I loved every minute of it. Maybe Roman's reign won't be so bad. My wrestling folks out there will appreciate it. I know that was corny. Yeah, I did that. Doesn't matter. I had to get it off. But, yo, what else did Greg seemingly learn here? I think it's that you can achieve balance in more than one way. It doesn't necessarily have to be linear. You had your 32 passing attempts to 29 rushing. I'd say that's pretty good balance. And I want to give Greg props for opening up the downfield passing attack and not just continuing to default back to the run game until something broke. I mean, 10 is a peacock. You got to let him fly. That is a quote from the movie The Other Guys. And folks, if you have not seen The Other Guys, what are we doing? I mean, I know we have some younger viewers out there, but dog, yo, it's classic Will Ferrell, Mark Wahlberg. Go check it out if you haven't. Anyway, you saw a little bit more early play action, more screens, although the screenplays didn't really work to great effect. The Saints seem to have been keying on him, but at least you can see Greg's trying to be less predictable as a play caller. One design that's sneaky good and worked well against the Saints, especially when they were in like cover 3 or deep zones, was out of like twin sets with a receiver in speed motion who would basically drift into the flat and post snap They would settle at the boundary, and a couple times it provided an easy outlet pass for Herbert and basically was a free 8 to 10 yards. So when the Saints were caught playing deep zones with no flat or hard flat coverage, it would work nearly every single time. I also love the aggressiveness on second and long. That 60-yard TD to Ladd came off of a play action on 2nd and 9. The big 50-yarder to Josh Palmer in the fourth came on 2nd and 18. The reason why this works is because defenses often make play calls that are more so crafted to defend the sticks in those scenarios, because their thought process, specifically against what has been a really conservative Chargers offense, is that you're looking to get into a third and manageable situation as opposed to going for the gusto over the top. So again, bravo to you, Greg. You're getting there. We're always going to tell the truth here. As much as it pains me to have to discuss this over and over again, it's a real issue. You guys all see it. I'm not sure what's going to be done about it at this point, but something's going to have to if this team plans to contend into the postseason. There needs to be some serious interior redecoration. But first of all, let me start off by saying this. Salute to Bradley Bozeman for going full Ike Turner on Nathan Shepard after he tried to rip Justin Herbert's ankle off the bone. That moment definitely helped to galvanize the team from that point on. And also, quick request. Can we get some of that production during live play, Bradley? I mean, I'm just saying. I think we've been trying to get them or give them time on the interior to gel. But, I mean, we're halfway through the season. So I think it's safe to say that the Zion, Bozeman, Pipkins trio is abysmal, caca, backwash, used protein shaker bottle residue. Let's go with flaming hot, deep fried donkey cheeks. Just not very good. And I don't see it getting much better. You want to know why the run game has seemingly fallen off a cliff? Look no further than the interior of the offensive line. And if you're curious as to why Herbert is looking like a 3-year-old lost in an amusement park maze on many of his 5 to 7 step drops, well, some of this is also due to like the lack of receivers getting separation, but we'll get to that. It's really because Larry, Curly, and Mo there have been getting their Helen Keller on, and it's costing the offense dearly. Even beyond the interior offensive line, I would not be shocked at this point if Herbert is asking the question, what more do you want from me? I mean, please, get 10 a legitimate number one target. I'm begging of you. I've been saying it for weeks. My preference would be a tight end, and I want to thank Will Dissly for his production here over the past 2 weeks. But if I have to be subjected to another slow motion screenplay, a molasses paste over route, or a drive killing drop, I'm going to waterboard myself on camera. Look, I planted my David Njoku flag, but the Browns are actually up next in week 9. So the soonest that could happen would be the day prior to the trade deadline. And even then, I think it's dependent upon the Chargers actually winning that matchup, because Jameis Winston actually has a chance to do something both hilarious and potentially infuriating if he can get them to 3-6. After the Chargers, the Browns have a week 10 bye. Then they play the lowly Saints, followed by a division matchup against the Steelers. Those are almost always toss-ups, and especially if the Browns are playing inspired ball. And then they play the Broncos. So in other words, if the Bolts have any Njoku hopes, they probably need to do some turd stumping next week. But there are other names out there still, though. You got Deontay Johnson, who was a healthy scratch last week. Evan Ingram, maybe a reunion with Hunter Henry. You got some lower tier options like Daniel Bellinger and Darius Slayton from the Giants, and probably some others that I'm not thinking of right now off the top of my head. But I don't know that they go after a bigger name like T. Higgins. But again, those are just some guys that I think that they have a real chance at. We'll have to see how it goes. And I don't know, man. You got to do something, though. They're struggling right now to score. Like, they really lit things up in the second half of Sunday's game, but it's still a strain. Like, some of those throws were magnificent and some of those catches were ridiculous, and you can't count on that every week. There have to be a couple easy buttons here and there. Yo, do y'all remember who wore number 15 before Lad McConkey? Me neither. Not important. You want to know what it is? Making sure that 15 gets all of his props here in this segment. Didn't want to go an entire 5 without calling him out because he needs his own spotlight. Definitely not your average lad. No drops this week, folks. The dude had 6 targets, 6 receptions for 111 yards, so a career day. And we as fans already knew that he was ascending, but now the league was put on notice. And no, he's not necessarily built to be a number 1 wide receiver, but it's clear that Justin Herbert absolutely trusts him to make number 1 wide receiver type plays. We have this 6 foot 180-pound dude who looks like a Starbucks barista dunking on cats and putting them on skates like the professor from the old and one mixtapes. No joke. If the Chargers can find a legit number 1 tight end and wide receiver, Lad is going to be virtually unguardable, and that is a fact. So that's going to be it for me, folks. I appreciate you for tapping in. Salute to everyone I ran into out there at the game. There were a couple of people that approached me at the stadium, even a couple of folks in the airport, more than one. So thank you guys for all of your support. And I don't ask very often. We at the show really don't enough, but please do like, share, and sub to the channel, man. We again appreciate all you guys do for us and help us continue to grow this thing. So until the next time, y'all know what it is, Mr. TOP_FLYT3. You know who I be, and I will catch you on the next one. Catch us on After Hours after the Browns game, and Garrett and Jamie throughout the week on their respective shows with the walkthrough and Score More. So until then, catch y'all later, and I'm gone.